俺はルフィ、海賊王になる男だ。
It's a great day here at another great YouTube video at KEKFILA's YouTube channel. This video is a promotional video guide, aka masterclass, congratulating Holden Miller, aka the Flyest Raven, for winning in the October 5th online regionals with Rob Lucci. He did a guide on my Patreon about 2 weeks before this. A lot of the video is still very relative, although the deck list may change, but that should always change depending on what you're expecting. And this video is going to be a part of that full hour guide we do on the Patreon. Holden is really quick and to the point about how to play Lucci and really all the other aspects of the guide. On the Patreon guide, we have more information, specifically a lot of the matchups and how to play more of the mid game. Before I start the video, I do want to say these videos do take a lot of time and effort from me and from my other creators. So if you could do me a favor and leave a like and subscribe to the channel, I would really appreciate it. Now, without further ado, let's get into the goo. It's a great day here at KEKFILA's Patreon, your number one One Piece source of content for guides, etc., etc. And I'm happy to bring you guys Holden Miller, aka Flyest Raven. How you doing today, man?
I'm chilling. How you doing?
I'm doing good. I'm doing good. Today we have our first ever Lucci guide. And I do want to say, I actually think we're going to have multiple Lucci guides this set because it's just kind of be like the monster of a consistent deck. And we'll go over, why it's so good. And before I do, I first wanted to thank Holden Miller for being here. If you guys don't know who he is, his Twitter will be here, so you can follow him on there. He has plenty of One Piece accolades. We did a Queen video a long time ago on the Will to Win Patreon. But now, he's been grinding with Lucci. He's been back and forth.
Yep.
We've done a little content together, but this is us bringing it back. And one thing I like about Holden, he's very short and brief, and he just kind of gets the word across without, stretching a full story like I am right now.
I try not to talk too much. I'm conscious of how long I talk because I can ramble, and I try not to.
Yeah. Well, there's the middle ground, There's a middle ground to be said. With that, let's go over the game. And I first wanted to go over an OP08 early in the set. I'm seeing that a lot of people are trying out kind of more fun, less black decks, right?
Yeah.
And in October, beginning October, like early October, there's going to be a lot of events. And then beginning of November, it's 8.5, which I don't really know if this deck picks up anything. Did you know if this?
Not that I know of.
Yeah.
I don't think anything happens in 8.5 that helps Lucci. You have to change your list a bit because the meta changes, but
yeah, it might get better because now you have a better matchup. I think Blue Dofi is kind of, I would say, not favored into Lucci, in my opinion. But
yeah, I need to test post-starter deck, but pre-starter deck, it's definitely not favored for a Dofi.
Exactly. Right now, have fun until October, but when October comes, people are gonna be getting this guide. So, with that, why should we? Why do you play Lucci, and why should anyone else consider playing this later?
I play Lucci because I like playing the control style. And he says your opponent doesn't get to have a board, and that usually gives you a good chance at winning the game.
Mm-hmm.
Funny enough, Queen was a different kind. It was blue-yellow, so didn't think of it like that. But it's the same. It's just a control style. Right? You're just clearing board every turn with Queen as well. So it's very similar in that aspect. This is why I kind of messed with it. Basically, you have a good matchup spread into most decks, and you control the board consistently.
Mm-hmm.
You have really strong boss monsters in Moria and now in Jack. And then really strong pieces that let you consistently find those, even though they're not searchable technically, with Kuzan, Kalifa, and Sabo.
Yeah. I mean, I would say drawing and discarding cards is like better than an actual searcher. And
I'd agree with that.
Yeah. It's kind of interesting. I never played Magic, right? But I recently learned that Magic had a lot of those things, right?
I didn't play Magic either.
Yeah, I didn't know, but like my other card games, I never knew like and I think drawing 2, discarding 2. If you have duds in your hand, it's the same as just drawing 2. It's so broken. And then this is, I mean, black is the deck that does it the most, right? As far as especially with Sabo and I guess now Jack, and cycling. So I guess that's a really big benefit. So the good thing is it's consistent, right? It got some extra pieces, and on top of that, if you don't let your opponent play the game, you usually are going to win. That's the idea. So I guess that's why you like to play it. If you don't let your opponent play the game, you're most likely going to win. But with that, let's go over the deck list. You did provide me 3 things here, and the main thing I'm going to bring up actually first is actually the core. And you said 43 cards is pretty much the core, and then the other 8 cards you can add, right?
Yeah. The 2Ks, I think 4 Kalifa is core, and then you can kind of do what you want with the other. Like that doesn't have to be 4 Husu. Like in my actual list that you had, I'm on 3 Husu and 1 Kaku. Like it's basically 4 2. I think you have to run 8 2Ks again, just because there are more aggro decks showing up in the meta with Zoro and Kalgura, whereas in 7.5 there was like no aggro, so you could get away with the 6 that some people were doing. And then I think basically all those, I don't think you go less than 4 Ice Age, at least pre-starter decks.
Yeah.
And then personally, I really wanted to put a 4th Rebecca for the core, but I decided, I've seen some people play 3, so you could do 3 if you want. But I don't think I would go less than 4, but
yeah, I think 3. Playing less than 4 is kind of crazy, but we're just kind of bringing this up as like an option.
I don't think I would run less than this with these cards.
Exactly. Yeah. Obviously, I guess a main thing people need to learn when learning this deck, let's say you're kind of a newer player trying to learn this deck, you should understand like how Rebecca works. That's like a big card to read. And then understanding how Spandine works. This is used as like a kind of a god combo when you're playing down Gecko Moria. In order to play down Gecko Moria, to play down a Rebecca, so you have a blocker, and then call it the Spandine, which is going to call out your Lucci. But you have to set up your trash, and then your leader obviously enables how many cards you have in your trash. Kalifa, drawing 2, discarding 2. Sabo, drawing 2, discarding 2. Spandam, trashing the top 3, maybe recurring 1 usually. In this respect,
definitely with, but you accept that.
Yeah, I mean the thing is, there are certain decks that like just straight up mill 5, like Gecko Moria. With that, right? So it's not even like the biggest loss there. But understand these core cards. I guess the main differences from last set to this set is just these 2 cards. And is Who's just a new standard 2K over Suru just because another Rob Lucci? Do you ever play this card?
Yes. It's removal, right? So you don't like to because you have to trash a card from hand. But I find you do often have to, like, I don't know if you go over this later in the matchup spread. Basically, in the mirror going first, you want to play Jack on 7.
Yeah.
If they have a Kuzan protected by Sabo, like if they went Kuzan on 4 and Sabo on 6, you're kind of not allowed to play Jack on 7.
Yeah.
So you basically really want to kill Kuzan on 5, so you're allowed to play Jack on 7. And Who's Who kills Kuzan on 5.
Got it. Yeah, and he's searchable, right? Because he's technically a former CP9.
Yeah, he is searchable. He
that's stupid.
Counts for Spandine and all of that.
Oh god, that's so. I was wondering if this guy was a break, but he's actually just super.
Yeah, he's searchable. He counts for Spandine.
Okay. Yeah. Obviously, Jack isn't searchable, but hopefully you're just using things like Sabo, Kalifa to find this card. And we'll go over first and seconds later because I'm sure Jack now changes that a little bit.
Yeah, you definitely don't always go second now.
Yeah,
I don't think.
Yeah, and then with that, we'll go over some option cards. With Brooke, how did you kind of feel? It was used a lot last set. How did you feel about it?
I liked it a lot last set. It was even on 3 in my nationals list, but I think if I were to play it this set, I don't think I'd go to more than 1, to be honest. And even then, I just don't think you need it. You have more popping, like your Who's Who. If you really need to pop something, you have another card that says pop already, just naturally. So like,
what do you think if like your meta was like a lot of, I don't know, like low to the ground bodies?
If your meta is all Zoro, I guess.
Yeah.
Brooke, but even then, they play a lot of 3 costs, so Brooke doesn't actually help that much into Zoro.
Yeah.
It helps, but it's not nearly as relevant as you would think. I don't think.
Yeah.
Um,
And then this optional card, it feels like more like you have to choose this card now, but optional card
I've
being
seen some
Kuzan.
people not, which was surprising to me. But I
Yeah.
think I really like the card. I was on 4, then I went to 3, and then I just like went back to 4 for now. Is what I'm on currently.
There's like a
The card's insane,
discussion to
especially
be
with Jack.
had. There's a big discussion to be had about Kuzan because you know it wasn't even used in BY Luffy for a while. Then everyone used it at once.
Yeah.
And it's just the fact of just the amount of cards in hand, it matters too much. And then this
Yes.
actually stops your opponent from playing down a big body like Issho the next turn. Because if you play this down the next turn, they play this down, yeah, they're up 2 cards out of your hand, but they're most likely going to get this popped. Right?
Yeah, then you have board control, and then it just snowballs.
Yeah. It demands an answer. That's what Kuzan is saying. Are you playing any Suru or just like another 2K
I'm not
option?
on any Suru. It's just another 2K option. If you want to run more than 8 2Ks, I think you can run that in there. It gives you another option to have reduction in trash off of Moria.
Yeah. And then 16
sometimes you don't have any.
Is also kind of like a 2K, right?
It's like a 2K, counts as an option. As it's like, I don't think you need the card. I wasn't a big fan of it for most of last set, but I ended up running 1, and it was fine. But I don't think it hardly ever came up, if ever. It was usually just in trash.
Yep.
And I would normally just cycle it with Sabos and stuff. Be like, I don't even need this card.
Okay.
So 16 pistol's an option if you find you're breaking too much. If you do want to run more bricks as your tech options, I think you might want to include 1 or 2. But
sure. With that, Borsellino just seems like a normal staple in half the decks, especially good against the mirror.
Good in the mirror, good against BY. Blocker, counter, it's good.
Yep, it's kind of a crutch for most people. They'll play this down and then they can sit on it the whole game. So, and like they don't even have to use it until they need it. So, Issho, it feels like it fell out of favor this set just because of how strong Jack is. Because Jack can just remove it the turn after. Right?
Yeah, I think Issho's still good into what it was good in before. BY and Nami.
Yeah,
and like Anel, but you don't need any more help against
I mean,
Anel.
if you're playing Issho, you're probably playing more decks like ST Luffy, like ST14 Luffy, right?
Yeah, if you're playing Issho in your list, you mean? Yeah, I think he's definitely better in that deck. Whereas for Lucci, it's like you are trying to control the board. You want to remove bodies. Again, it's good into BY and Nami, and that's really the only. If you think you really want to help with those matchups, you can run Issho.
Yeah.
Personally, I think I just accept BY as a loss if I see it, to be honest, at this point, because of how they're tech now and how they build the list. I accept BY as a loss unless they break. Issho's not really going to change that too much unless it hits the God cards.
Sure. Yeah.
So,
what are your thoughts on cards like Brook and Luffy right now?
Luffy has just been the 5-cost Luffy just continuously like gets worse in the meta as it develops. Unfortunately, as much as I love this card, BY Luffy has more and more ways to answer it, and then it doesn't really have any good matchups outside of BY Luffy. Like Bonnie and Anel, it's still good against those decks, and it's still good against Yellow in general.
Okay.
But you are already favored into all of those decks.
Yeah.
And then BY, it's good against BY if you can find the time, but they usually like pressuring you so much that if you play it with Sabo on 10, you're kind of dying the next turn, or you're not able to protect it after you trash like one character.
It's almost like you have to play it and hope it doesn't get popped, right?
Yeah, I don't think it. I think in a way, I don't really think it has too much of a spot, unfortunately.
Okay.
And then 6-cost book, it's good. I decided to opt out of it right now.
Okay.
Most people, I think, are still on like 2. It's a good card. My problem with 6-cost book is you basically play it on curve, and then it's hard to find a good time to play it after that.
Because you have too many other good cards to play.
And there's not room for like 4 anymore. It's even hard to find room for 3. And at 2, you're not going to consistently see it on curve. So I just would rather have my game plan be without it for now.
Okay, got it.
But it's an option as well. It's good in the mirror.
Develop when things develop.
Yeah, things could definitely change. It's good into the mirror, good into BY, good into Nami.
Yep.
And then it's still just it removes a character on play against
Yeah.
anything else, so it's still
Yeah.
never bad.
And then finger gun. I think I feel like this is half of a staple at this point, right? It might be pretty good right now.
I didn't even play it in 7.5 because
Mhm.
I think it's for Bonnie, and then it has uses into other stuff. But you're favored into Bonnie even pre
Yeah.
08. So was never a huge fan of Finger Pistol, but it's still a good card. I'm not gonna say it's not. But I think post 08, I know some people are still on it. I just don't see the point now that we have Jack.
Okay.
Like you still kill Hawkins even easier now with Finger Pistol is the easiest option.
Yeah.
But now you
Yeah.
kill Hawkins with Jack, and it's fine.
Yeah.
Like it's good.
Yep. And then Stussy, obviously the matchups where you can't KO stuff is kind of rough with this card.
Yeah, that card, it's CP, which is a bonus, so it's a searchable top end. And then it helps you against guards that play a lot of top end that you would eventually like struggle to have removal for, like against the Nell.
Yeah.
And then ideally against Jack and the Mir is like the main reason you consider Stussy is to easily clear
Did this come
Jack.
up when you did side events at all?
Yeah, actually it did help me. I don't remember, it might have been a Jack. I don't remember exactly what it was, but I played it against the Mir.
Okay.
Round 4 of side or 5.
Is this gross against Jack? Like, do they just like when they play it out of Jack and you hit him with a Stussy? They
I mean, it's good, especially if you had board control and then they just play a Jack, and then you get to just respawn with a Stussy. It's pretty clean. It definitely tilts it in your favor, I think. The problem is if they play Jack on 7, you can't play Stussy on 8.
Yeah.
So it's like a little awkward. Like God Curve is you go Jack on 7, Stussy on 9.
Yeah.
If you do that, it's definitely hard for them to respawn in the Mir.
Yeah, exactly, because they can't Sabo the same turn they play a Moria or
especially if they just responded with their own Jack. They just decided to clear something else, ignore your Jack, because you can't, without having a Kuzan pre-developed, you can't clear a Jack with Jack in the Mir.
Yeah, you're killing your Jack is gonna kill Kuzan, right?
Yeah. So if they just try to respond to your Jack with their own Jack, and then you Stussy on 9, you kind of just like win the game.
Yeah. Whoever laughs, whoever Jacks last.
I mean, whoever gets a big body to stick, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, we'll go over multiple Jacks. By the way, I don't know if that's came up. Like multiple Jacks come down. If that's like just kind of a waste.
No, it's definitely not a waste. It's definitely still strong.
It's good, like double Jack.
It's still an 8K that can swing. If you don't want to use the effects.
Yeah. Usually, I'm just like, I'll rest it just to kill a guy anyway. And then finally, Kaido. Some people are on like maybe a couple of these because it trashes 7 cost.
Yeah, lets you raw answer a Moria. You know, like you just leader swing and then you can answer a Moria, which helps against BY.
Yeah,
I think would be the main reason to run it because it trashes, so they can't protect it through Sabo.
Yeah. I think that'd
be
good.
I was testing 2 of it. I was on 2 of it right before I switched to my current list.
Yeah.
But I got rid of it just to make things a little bit more consistent.
Yeah. I think come big tournament time, it might be worth trying multiple of these to see how it works in the BY matchup. Just because it does need to test it more. I think that would, if you went in Moria into Kaido, I'd feel kind of gross, and then I would eventually I feel like it makes up for not playing cards like Brook, right? That's why.
Yeah, that was my logic. You have more ways to move stuff and trash stuff, so like. Yeah. Aside of it not being able to be played on 6 or whatever to kill Sabo, it's stronger than Brook, I think, usually most times.
Yeah. Okay. And then final card I want to go over is actually Soap Sheep. It's actually, this card's always been kind of a meme, in my opinion. It actually might be really relative when Blue Dofi blows up.
Yeah, when starter decks come out, I think you play this card. Pre-starter decks, I don't think you need this card, and I think it's that simple.
You think people should try out 3 when it comes out, or like?
Yeah, I think what I'm gonna try at first when starter decks first come out is 4 Tempest Cake, 3 Ice Age, 3 Soap Sheep.
Okay.
And I think that's just what I'm gonna like start my first testing off in starter decks.
Got it. Yeah. Okay. Great. Let me.
And then there's the Hina in there. You know, just
Hina's always gonna be an option. So
I think it's an option just because I think it's more of an option just because Jack's the card. Just to be clear, just because if you have a pre-developed Jack, Hina is like. Oh
my god, that's pretty juice.
You can if your Jack sticks, you can Moria, Rebecca, Hina, Helmeppo, and you're like raw clearing a 11 cost. with leader and all of that.
Yeah, you don't even need to do like a Spandine, right?
Yeah.
That's
So I think Hina's an option for that, but it's a little
pretty
cute.
good.
It's like it requires to have Jack stick and all that, but
Okay, got it. Yeah, and this is the list you're kind of on right now. Obviously, people might
Yeah.
switch cards up depending on the meta matchup. You're gonna be like adding and subtracting things, but I feel like half of this is
So
usually a pretty good card.
this is like 2 cards. If you ignore the 2Ks, one of the Husu being a Kaku, it's like 2 cards
Yeah.
different from the list I posted on Twitter.
Yeah.
I'd cut 1 Jack and 1 Sabo for the 2 Borsellino. Because I've just been liking Borsellino because the mirror's even more cancer now, so having more tech cards for the mirror, which Borsellino is a good card in the mirror on 4, I just decided I'd like that.
Yeah. Got it. Yeah.
So
I did want to bring up this. Have you done any testing as like ST14 Luffy? People compare this deck to that deck, right? Even though they're very different. They're very different.
I've tested I've done solo versus self with Lucci versus ST14 Luffy.
Yeah.
I haven't played against like any other decks besides Lucci with ST14 Luffy.
Okay. Got it. I just know it was like that Luffy. They just remove one thing at a time, and then they have like they're just hard to remove their bodies because the leader skill, right?
Yeah.
So it might be different. I don't know. It's kind of interesting, and especially at nationals, it didn't do very well topping wise, right? Even
Yeah, I
though
mean, I
think
think
it had
once you know how it plays and what the lists run, it's not as
exactly.
strong. To be
If you look at
honest.
the European Twitter, like everyone's playing ST14 Luffy. It's kind of hilarious, right?
I mean, I think it caught people by surprise, and people didn't know what it did or what it was
think
on.
so too. I mean, Europe
It's still a good deck.
let Red Green Law win a regional, so you know it's it's the respect is hard to earn now. With that, let's go over the Mulligan. What are you thinking generally? Obviously, match to match depends. What are we generally looking to Mulligan for?
Going first, you're generally looking for Jack.
Okay.
Going second, you're generally looking for Kuzan. And I think that is as the simple way to look at it.
Okay.
There's other factors, of course.
And we'll go over that. You can mention that in every matchup when we go to matchup.
I think that is the simple way to look for it. To think of it.
Is there ever like you don't see a Jack or Kuzan, but you see I don't know Spandam? Like what anything that can help set you up?
Yeah. I mean, I don't think you hard mold for those cards in most matchups and all of that. That's just a general good rule for starting when you're trying to figure out starting hands.
Okay.
Also, when you're first learning a deck, you should probably just keep most hands and see how they play and see what you like.
Okay. Got it. Yeah, that's good advice. Yeah. With that, let's go over first and second. Usually the answer is just go second. I don't even think you could, if you just win second every time, you're probably not having a hard time. But now there are maybe sometimes you go first. What are your thoughts? What are your thoughts about going first?